Have you ever noticed that you sleep better when you're not trying to fall asleep? Or that your best conversations happen when you're not rehearsing what to say? Maybe you've had a creative breakthrough right after you stopped forcing yourself to come up with ideas. There's a pattern here that most people miss. You've probably experienced it yourself. The moment you stopped pushing so hard, things started clicking into place. That's not coincidence. That's how your brain actually works best. The reason you've felt stuck in certain areas isn't because you're not trying hard enough. It's because the way you're trying is actually creating the problem. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why forcing things backfires and what happens when you stop. You'll learn the specific difference between productive effort and wasted effort, and why this one change eliminates most of the stress you're carrying right now. Because what most people think is trying harder is actually what's blocking their progress. Here's something that happens constantly. You're trying to solve a problem by thinking about it harder and harder. But the solution comes when you're doing something completely unrelated. Taking a walk, having lunch, or right before you fall asleep. Or you're having a difficult conversation that's going in circles. The harder you try to make your point, the more defensive the other person becomes. But when you finally stop pushing and just listen, something shifts, and they actually start hearing you. This happens because forcing creates resistance in your brain, in other people, and in situations. When you're pushing hard, you're literally working against the natural way things want to unfold. Most people do more of what isn't working. They have the same argument again, work longer hours on a project that's stuck, or try harder to convince someone who's already made up their mind. More effort, worse results. Here's what I've learned from watching people who seem to have their lives together. They're not working harder than everyone else. They're working differently. They put in effort, but they don't attach desperation to it. They care about outcomes, but they don't make their happiness dependent on controlling exactly how those outcomes happen. This changes everything once you understand how it works. If you're still watching, you already know something most people don't, that there's a smarter way to approach problems than just trying harder. Most people will keep burning themselves out with the same approach that isn't working. But you're here because you're ready to try something different. What I'm about to show you is the exact shift that changes everything. If this is resonating with you, please subscribe. When you're trying to control outcomes, you can only see one way for things to work out. This makes you miss better possibilities that are right in front of you. Here's what this looks like. Something unexpected happens that disrupts your plans. If you're attached to controlling how things go, you get frustrated and spend energy trying to get back to your original plan. You're so focused on what you wanted to happen that you can't see what's actually available now. But when you're not attached to a specific outcome, you can adapt. You You notice opportunities you wouldn't have seen otherwise. You respond to what's actually happening instead of fighting for what you thought should happen. The person who can adapt gets better results than the person who tries to force their original plan to work no matter what. One approach works with reality, the other works against it. The difference isn't what happens to you. The difference is how much flexibility you give yourself to work with what you've got. The first person is trying to control the outcome. The second person is influencing it. Control creates tension. Influence creates flow. Here's the key difference between these approaches. Think about something you've been trying to make happen that just isn't working. Maybe you keep having the same conversation with someone and getting nowhere. Or you've been pushing hard on a goal but feeling more stressed than accomplished. Or you're trying to fix a situation that keeps creating more problems. Notice how exhausting it is to keep pushing against something that isn't moving. Now imagine stepping back from that struggle completely. What would you focus on instead? That shift in focus. That's where everything changes. Here's why we try to control things. We think it keeps us safe. If we can manage every detail, nothing bad will happen. But control is exhausting, and it usually doesn't work anyway. The things you're trying to control fall into two categories: things you can actually influence and things you can't. Most of your stress comes from trying to control things in the second category. You can influence how well you do your work, but you can't control whether you get the promotion. You can influence how you treat people, but you can't control how they respond to you. You can influence your own actions, but you can't control the results those actions produce. When you focus your energy on what you can actually influence instead of what you want to control, two things happen. First, you get better results because you're putting your energy in the right place. Second, you feel better because you're not fighting battles you can't win. This doesn't mean you stop caring about outcomes. It means you care so much about getting good results that you're willing to let go of needing them to happen exactly the way you pictured. Here's how to practice this in any situation. When you notice you're trying to force an outcome, pause and ask yourself, what would I do right now if I weren't trying to control how this turns out? If you're waiting for someone to make a decision that affects you, instead of checking in repeatedly, you focus on what you can do while you wait. If you're in a conversation that's not going well, instead of pushing harder to make your point, you listen to understand what's really going on. When something isn't working the way you planned, instead of forcing your original approach, you ask what the situation is actually calling for right now. This isn't about giving up on what you want. It's about finding more effective ways to influence outcomes by working with what's happening instead of against it. You'll notice that when you stop trying to control things, you actually become more influential. People respond better when they don't feel pushed. Solutions appear when you're not forcing them. Opportunities show up when you're paying attention to what's available instead of what you think should be available. you'll notice something right away. When you stop trying to control things, you actually get better at influencing them. People respond better when they don't feel pressured. Opportunities show up when you're focused on doing good work instead of managing impressions. This approach takes practice, but it works faster than you'd expect. Over the next week, you'll start catching yourself when you slip into control mode. Each time you redirect that energy back to what you can actually influence, you'll feel the difference immediately. You'll be more relaxed, but also more effective. Your relationships will improve because people don't feel managed by you. Your work will get better because you're focused on quality instead of outcomes. Most people never learn this distinction, but you're already ahead just by understanding it. If you found this helpful, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss it. And if you know someone who's been pushing too hard on something that isn't working, share this with them. Sometimes we all need a reminder that there's an easier way. Leave a comment and let me know. What's one thing you've been trying to control that you're ready to let go of?